Hey there, Kamal. This is me, folks, once again, and today we have an interesting looking limit problem from the 2016 JEE advanced exam, which is known to be the toughest exam in India. So, what on earth is this? We have a function f of x defined as the limit as n tends to infinity of a whole lot of stuff. I mean, we have this n to the n over n factorial. We have these factors, or these binomial terms involving x, and ratios of n and 1, n over 2, all the way to n over n, which is 1, then the squared versions in the denominator. It is given that f of x is positive, and I think that will become even more obvious towards the end of the video when we actually uncover a form for f of x by simplifying the limit. So what was the question? The question just gave this limit flat out as a function, and the question pertained to some information regarding the values of f and its derivative, which are quite easy to, which are very, very easy to uncover. It's very easy to decipher that information if we know whether or not the function is increasing or decreasing. But to answer that question, we're going to have to simplify the expression on the right-hand side a little bit, because right now I have no idea what to do with it. I mean, you have all these terms in x, and then you have this raised to x over n. Like, what the absolute hell is going on here? But the good news is that there's a trick for these kind of problems, and you may have seen this in, let's say, the MIT integration bee problems of the past, that when you have such a limit problem, a wise strategy is often to convert this into some kind of Riemann sum. And I know it's a product right now, but just bear with me. So the first thing I'd like to do is write this as limit as n tends to infinity of the product over k from 1 to n of n to the n, which is independent of k, so I might as well just take that outside. And I have x plus n over k, which is dope. Downstairs, I have n factorial times the product over k from 1 to n of x plus n squared over k squared, and the whole thing is again being raised to x over n. Okay, cool. Now, what on earth are we to do with this thing? Well, notice that we do have an n to the n and n factorial term. We do have such terms involved. And n here is, of course, independent of the index variable k. So what if I were to factor this out? That gives me another benefit of having a 1 plus something times x, which is just a nice expression to have. So limit as n tends to infinity of n to the n, product over, terribly sorry about that, product over k from 1 to n of n over k times 1 plus k over n times x. And downstairs we have n factorial times the product over k. That's not a very nice looking product term. Product sign, that is, some rather product over k from 1 to n of n squared over k squared times 1 plus k squared over n squared times x. Okay, cool. And let's not forget, the whole thing is being raised to x over n. Now, the cool thing about products is I could just pick them apart, of course. So that means I have the limit as n tends to infinity of n to the n times the product over k from 1 to n over k times the product over k from 1 to n of 1 plus k over n times x divided by n factorial times the product over k from 1 to n of n squared over k squared times the product over k from 1 to n, again, of 1 plus k squared over n squared times x. And this brings back fond memories of watching Prime Flammable Maths. He once remarked, I mean, Jens once remarked about infinite products being infinite products being one of his favorite things to evaluate because they're just so nice in their properties, and this is one of them. So we have the whole thing raised to x over n, cannot forget that. Now, narrow down your focus onto the product terms over here. Notice that for this bad boy, you have n being multiplied with itself n number of times. Or wait, rather, why not invoke some simplification first, as in get rid of one of the n's here and one of the n's over there. Of course, the I mean, you have the product of terms in the numerator, product of terms in the denominator. That's just the product of the whole thing. So I can get rid of the n over here. I can get rid of the k over there. So I only have one of these products to worry about now. So let me just move this to the side just a little bit. Okay, cool. And now returning to the question of having n over k now after the cancellation. So you have n being multiplied with itself n number of times, so that should give you an n to the n term. So I have the limit as n tends to infinity of n to the n times the product, terribly, sorry about that, over k from 1 to n of 1 plus k over n times x over n factorial times n to the n. And what the hell is the product over k from 1 to n? That is just going to be n factorial. So you have some lovely cancellation taking place everywhere, and we're only left with these two product terms. So I have 1 plus k squared over n squared times x, just x, all raised to x over n. So let me just write this out, the final expression for f of x. Well, the final so far, it is the limit as n tends to infinity of the product over k from 1 to n of 1 plus k over n times x over what exactly? Oh yeah, we have the product. Rather, I should write this as a single product back again now. And yes, I believe that would be a wise strategy. So I have 1 plus k over n times x over 1 plus k squared, terribly, sorry about that, k squared over n squared times x. And of course, again, the whole thing is just being raised to some exponent that is not going away. So we need to do something about it. And here's the cool thing. We need to do something about the exponent, but we can also turn this finite product. It's a finite product, although the limit is the limit of, I mean, n is going to infinity. So technically this is an infinite product, but we can turn this product into a sum by using logarithms. So this implies that log of f of x is the limit as n tends to infinity. A product turns into a sum, as in log of product is just log of sum. So we have log of product is sum of logs. So we have the sum over k from 1 to n. Like I always say, math is a lot easier than talking. Log of 1 plus k over n times x over 1 plus k squared over n squared times x, all raised to the x over n, which we shall finally get rid of in a really cool way. This is the limit as n tends to infinity of the sum over k from 1 to n of x over n times the logarithm of 1 plus k over n x minus the logarithm, let me write this as x over n, just distribute the multiplication, log, that is, of 1 plus k squared over n squared times x. So what we've derived is now a Riemann sum, and I can make that even more evident by just factoring out the x out here. It's independent of n and k, so we can just take it out. So notice that if I narrow my focus down on this term and write t sub k as k over n, and del t sub k would be k plus 1 over n minus k over n, so that does sort out to 1 over n, and my t sub 1 is equal to 1 over n, and t sub n is equal to n over n, which is 1. So this is a Riemann sum, and if I take the limit, if I evaluate the limit as n tends to infinity, then I will get x times the integral from, as n tends to infinity, you get a 0 to 1 of log of 1 plus tx, where x is still a parameter, dt minus the integral, or I might as well just distribute out the multiplication, minus the integral from 0 to 1 of log of 1 plus t squared times x dt. Okay, cool. So all of that is log f of x, and we have a couple of standard looking integrals to evaluate. So let me just get done with them fairly quickly. And let me pick a different color from my palette. Let's go with this. I don't know how to pronounce it. Is it cyan or something? I'm not sure. Anyway, so I sub 1 is the integral, and I'm taking the x term with me here. Log of 1 plus tx, so that we can use pi m's integration by parts trick. So x is what we're taking the antiderivative of, and The derivative of 1 plus tx with respect to t is also equal to x. So there we go, and we have log of 1 plus tx. We need to evaluate this in the limits t tends to 0 and 1, minus the integral from 0 to 1. 1 plus tx times the derivative of the logarithm is 1 plus tx, and via the chain rule, we should get this extra factor of x up top. There you have it, some cancellation. As t tends to 0, you get log 1, which is 0, and as t tends to 1, we will get 1 plus x times the logarithm of 1 plus x again, minus the integral, x times the integral from 0 to 1 of dt, which is just going to be equal to 1. So there you have it. That is the integral I sub 1. Now for I sub 2 is x times the integral from 0 to 1 of log of 1 plus t squared x squared dt. Again, integration by parts with nothing fancy here. On integrating 1, we get a t. So we have t times log of 1 plus t squared x squared, with the limits being 0 and 1, which are very convenient. Well, they're not half bad anyway. Minus the integral from 0 to 1 of t times 1 plus t squared x squared to tx squared up top dt. And that's quite nice because t and t combine to form t squared. Okay, cool. So in the limits, as t tends to 0, we get a 0. And as t tends to 1, we get our log of 1 plus x squared term. And then we have this other integral to evaluate, minus twice the integral from 0 to 1. T squared x squared, I could write this as 1 plus t squared x squared over 1 plus t squared x squared dx minus, but the two negatives cancel out. So we have 2 times the integral from 0 to 1 of 1 over 1 plus t squared x squared dt. So a nice arctangent structure there as well. Another integral resulting in 1. So we have x times log of 1 plus x squared, or I could just expand now. So x times log of 1 plus x squared minus 2x plus 2 times, what exactly? Integration with respect to t, so 2 over x times x is just canceling out. So we have 2 times the arctangent of what exactly? Oh yeah, it's t over x, if I'm not wrong. No, wait, it's supposed to be tx. There's a product term over there. Oh, yes, indeed. It is tx. Again, limits are 0 and 1. So as t tends to 0, we have arctangent 0, which is 0, and we are only left with the arctangent of x as the result for I sub 2. And now we need to piece everything together back into the expression for log f of x. So log f of x is just the difference of the two integrals, and I absorbed the x's into the integral, so we're all good. All I need to do is write out the results, and the results are, well, things that I forgot, but oh wait, I have them in my notes. Oh yeah, we got 1 plus x times log of 1 plus x, terribly sorry about that, plus x minus, what exactly? Oh yeah, x times log of 1 plus x squared. Apologies, my handwriting is quite atrocious. It's worse on my notes. This is actually my good handwriting that I present to you guys here on the channel. Anyway, so what on earth is this thing? Obviously, we should be able to get some kind of simplifications. Nah, we don't need simplifications. So this implies that f of x is an exponential function. F of x equals exp, going full-blown physicist over here, 1 plus x times log of 1 plus x minus x times log of 1 plus x squared minus 2 times the arctangent of x. And like I said, we need some information about the function being increasing or decreasing. So for that, I need the derivative. And I might as well differentiate this thing directly because it's a logarithm. So just give me a moment. So this implies that f prime of x over f of x, and it's given that f of x is positive, and that's actually quite apparent over here. So this ratio really isn't much of a big deal. So this thing results in, okay, product rule time. 1 plus x over 1 plus x plus Log of 1 plus x, I believe, plus 1 minus, let's see, we got log of 1 plus x squared minus, what should we have? Oh yeah, 2x squared over 1 plus x squared minus 2 times 1 plus x squared on differentiating once more the arctangent. And now I need to simplify all this jazz. Okay, cool. So this is clearly a 1, and 1 plus 1 is 2 nowadays. So log of 1 plus x minus the logarithm, I might as well collect the logarithms. 1 plus x over 1 plus x squared minus 2 times 1 plus x squared over 1 plus x squared. There's cancellation happening everywhere, and all of that implies that I need to give myself more writing space. Replace this by an and finally this implies that f prime of x over f of x is equal to the logarithm of 1 plus x over 1 plus x squared. Okay, cool. So again, we needed some information about the function being increasing or decreasing, and for that this ratio will suffice because f of x is of course positive, so its sign isn't varying. If x here is equal to 1, then f prime of x over f of x is going to be equal to the log of 1, which is 0. Okay, cool. What if x belongs to the interval between 0 and 1? Well, this would mean that 1 plus x is going to be greater than 1 plus x squared, which implies that f prime of x, why is my f so curly today? F prime of x over f of x is going to be greater than log of 1, which is equal to 0. So this implies that f prime of x is going to be positive on this interval. That is the interval between 0 and 1. And for x being greater than 1, obviously we have f prime of x being negative. Okay, cool. So the bunch of options given to us, I mean, we have to select the correct option, were as follows. So A is f of 0.5 is greater than or equal to f of 1, which is clearly false. Between 0 and 1, the function is increasing, so we can cross this out straight up. For B, we have f of 1/3 being less than or equal to f of 2/3. So yeah, this is absolutely dope. This is perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with that. Part C is f prime of 2 is going to be less than 0, and we did see that, right? I mean, x is greater than 1 means the derivative is negative, so yeah, that's another correct option. And similarly, we can see that part D is also going to be going to be incorrect after some algebra. I'll just write that out here for completeness, and you guys can verify that f prime of 3 over f of 3 is greater than or equal to f prime of 2 over f of 2. This is another false statement. That was an interesting limit problem. I have solved a few of those here on the channel, but I only solved the really interesting ones. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to like and subscribe. Do drop me a follow on Instagram as well. Thank you.